Welcome to the Weekly MindSweep, number 209, Mind Your Business Value. From accessibility to sustainability, a shift in value. When I re-entered the entrepreneurial space in 2020, I didn't really question the rooms I was spending time in. These spaces were full of bright, driven, and hardworking entrepreneurs. People shared strategies, pricing advice, and growth hacks. I quickly realized I don't like the word hack. In heart-centered businesses, there are no shortcuts. We give our all. In these spaces, people often talked about making things more accessible and visible by lowering barriers, meeting the market where it was, and being generous with our knowledge and time. It all sounded responsible, even ethical. What I didn't realize at first was how much those rooms were shaping my own thinking about value. When you spend time in places focused on hustle, fear, lack, and scarcity, you start to see those ideas as normal business behavior. You begin to think that lowering your prices is the quickest way to get to a yes, and that offering discounts proves your worth. You start to believe that giving more away is the only way to be valued, even if it takes time. Those rooms don't attract bad people, but I've learned they attract misaligned ones. People trained to look for discounts. People who want free information but never hold the time, energy, or focus to put it into practice. People who consume insight without practicing it. And when you lower your pricing to meet them, everything changes. The quality of the lead shifts, the relationship shifts, the work shifts. You're not just changing a number, you are choosing a mindset. Now that I work with creative entrepreneurs every day, I can tell where the conversation will go by the time pricing comes up. They're describing their work, thoughtful, experienced, nuanced work that doesn't fit neatly into templates or calculators. They talk easily about who they help and why it matters. The words come smoothly, like they've practiced this part 1,000 times. Then there's a pause. Their voice changes. They start speaking faster and breathing more quickly. Sometimes there's a deep sigh as if their body already knows what's coming. The story shifts quietly from what they know to what they fear. Pricing feels emotional and vulnerable. Even after years or decades of experience, it's uncomfortable for many to stand by the value of their work without downplaying it. For some, it even feels unsafe. Sometimes there's nervous laughter, as if the humor might make things easier. Sometimes there's shame from knowing the business isn't earning enough to support the person or the business itself. In creative service and product-based businesses, prices get lowered before anyone asks. Assumptions fill the silence. They won't pay. That's way too much. I don't want to be rejected. I don't want to trigger someone else's nervous system. Often, it's only when looking back that the real reason becomes clear. Charging more feels heavy with expectations, as if demand as if it demands perfection and leaves no space to be human. So the over-explaining begins. More context, more justification, more added value. Even when clients say, "You're undercharging me," it doesn't really sink in. There's nowhere for that feedback to settle yet. And a familiar pattern emerges. Everyone else comes first. The business gets invested in before the person running it does. Collaborators are deeply respected and compensated, but that same care is rarely given to themselves. Eventually, exhaustion shows up, then the resentment. It's not because the work isn't meaningful, but because it's being asked to carry more than it should. The resentment nobody wants to admit to. When you lower your price without reducing the scope, something breaks. You overgive. You overdeliver. You bring full expertise into containers that were never designed to hold it. And when the person you're working with isn't really listening, practicing, or applying what you share, you notice it. The exhaustion comes not from effort, but from misalignment, and resentment builds quietly. You start to pull back, not on purpose, but because it happens naturally. The quality of your work drops, the energy changes, and the whole experience suffers for both you and your client. No one benefits. Not you, not your business, not your client. This is what happens when pricing doesn't match value and when you choose spaces out of fear rather than alignment. Pricing is rarely about money. What entrepreneurs rarely admit at first is that they've never set prices based on facts. Instead, they use assumptions, compare themselves to others, or pick what feels reasonable, accessible, or safe. Few have ever calculated what their work truly costs them. And not just in hours. Cost also includes cognitive load, emotional labor, preparation before the work begins, recovery time after it ends, years of experience earned the hard way, pattern recognition that saves others time, energy, attention, and money. When these costs are ignored, pricing becomes a way to manage our nerves instead of a real business strategy. We lower prices to feel better, add more value to ease our doubts, and over-explain to avoid imagined rejection. We're pricing for self-protection. Over time, this self-protection turns into a habit, and that habit becomes an expectation. This is how creative entrepreneurs end up working harder for less, resenting work they care about, and wondering why growth feels impossible even when money is coming in. I still feel the discomfort from the shift to charging for curated conversation. It's not because it lacks value, but because charging brings up old habits. I feel pressure to prove myself and deliver more just because money is involved. I know it's still not priced to reflect the real cost of my time, energy, and attention each week. And instead of rushing to fix it, I've been practicing something different, actively rewiring my neural pathways, sitting in discomfort so I can take the next step towards sustainable business growth. Every week I show up through the discomfort, and in doing so, I'm surrounding myself with people who are intentionally here, listening deeply, discerning how they want to show up, practicing exactly what we are talking about. They aren't looking for free information to use and forget. They know what's being offered comes from real experience. They show up ready to listen, learn, and put these ideas into practice, and that changes the whole environment. And this leads to the most important thing I will say this week. You are not looking for clients. You're not just looking for clients, you're looking for the right person, someone who understands that what you offer isn't just information, it's experience, insight, and discernment. Sometimes a single sentence can change their life or business because it comes from years of hard-earned lessons. When you are in the right room, value doesn't need to be defended. It's recognized. People listen differently. They practice differently. They show up differently. Then pricing starts to feel less risky and more like a true reflection of your work. I know I said this last week, but it bears repeating. We don't decide what others value. We never have. What we do decide is what rooms we stand in, what stories we reinforce, what behaviors we tolerate, what we continue to give away. This week, I invite you to notice where you've been pricing from fear rather than fact, where accessibility has come at the cost of sustainability, and where free offers have replaced clarity. With tax season here, now it's a good time to look at your numbers without judgment, see what actually came in, what went out, and what is really costs you to do your work. When your pricing matches your real cost, you stop bracing yourself, stop second guessing, and stop giving away parts of your work before you even start. Your business becomes a safer place to work. From that sense of safety, you attract different clients. Sustainable businesses aren't built on discounts and constant hustle. They grow in spaces where people invest. They apply what they learn, and they grow, starting with themselves. Curated conversation is where this work is happening. It's a weekly practice of moving from reaction to clarity in both life and business. This month, we're talking about the numbers, telling the truth about the cost, and turning insight into action. It's time to build a business that truly supports you. Let value be something you stand on, not something you explain. I have two questions for you this week. Where in your business are you still choosing accessibility over sustainability? And what would need to change for that choice to actually support you long term? What is one room, container, or weekly practice you could commit to that would help you turn insight into action instead of just consuming more information? You belong here. I can help. If you haven't taken a close look at your 2025 numbers yet, this is your moment. Not to judge them, not to justify them, to learn from them. Your books show what really came in, what went out, and what it cost you in time, energy, attention, and money to run your business last year. These numbers, they're not a verdict, they're just data, and data gives you choices. If you want a safe, neutral place to review your 2025 books, talk through what you see, and turn facts into clearer, more sustainable decisions for 2026, let's connect. We'll look at the numbers calmly, with or without making them mean more than they do. Learning from your real numbers isn't about fixing what's wrong, it's about building a business that can truly support you. If you want to stop guessing and start feeling clear about your numbers, I'm here to help. Book a free consultation to learn how I can support you and your business. I'd also like to let you know about curated conversation. If this conversation sparked curiosity, resistance, relief, or a quiet, yes, this is it, you don't have to hold that alone. Curated Conversation is a weekly live space for thoughtful, heart-centered entrepreneurs to slow down, speak honestly, and explore topics like value without pressure to perform or prove. We gather to listen, reflect, and make sense of what's shaping our business and decisions together. If you've never joined us, your first month is free. Come sit in the room. Listen if you want. Speak if you're ready. Stay if it feels like home. Mondays at 8 a.m. Start with coffee, belonging included. You can learn about curated conversation or book a free consultation with me at chickbookcreative.com.